On April 20th, 1945, Allied troops entered the city of Berlin. 17 days later, Germany surrendered. Germany was split into 4 zones: the British zone, Soviet zone, American zone, and the French zone. Berlin was also split into 4 zones. The city was inside the Soviet zone. After the war, tensions began to rise between the Soviets and the other allies. Soon after that, the Berlin blockade started. It signaled the growing divide between the Soviets and the other allies. Both Berlin and Germany, the French, British, and American zones combined to form the FRG. The Soviet zones became the GDR. Soon, hundreds of thousands of East Berliners began heading west in search of better job opportunities. The GDR opted to solve this problem by building a wall. So on August 13, 1961, in the middle of the night, they built a wall on the border between East Berlin and West Berlin. Depending on what side of the wall you went to sleep on that night, it would be the side that you would stay on for over 2 decades. Thousands of families were torn apart, and thousands tried to get over the wall, and hundreds died. At the end of World War II, the Soviet Union owned numerous satellite states inside Europe. By 1952, a large number of these satellite states were revolting. The revolts undermined the Soviet influence in Europe, leading to the fall of the Berlin Wall. Another reason the Berlin Wall fell is because of a new Soviet premier named Mikhail Gorbachev. He introduced a new system of openness and transparency, allowing the Soviet people to speak their mind more freely. The wall also stood up as a reminder of the weakness of the communist system. As John F. Kennedy said, "Democracy is not perfect, but we have never had to build a wall to keep our people in." The construction of the Berlin Wall sparked debate all over the world, causing current President John F. Kennedy to visit Berlin and make his famous Ein Inch Berliner speech.
There are many people in the world who really don't understand, or say they don't, what is the great issue between the free world and the communist world. Let them come to Berlin. Freedom has many difficulties, and democracy is not perfect. But we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in, to prevent them from leaving us. Today, in the world of freedom, the proudest boast is, "Ich bin ein Berliner."
Sometimes, even life in West Berlin was hard. Food was rationed because of the Berlin blockade, and buildings close to the Berlin Wall were demolished.
The problem, we had not enough space for building anymore. It was everything tight. We were on an aisle.
And you could see it from, you could see the Springer Hochhaus, for instance. So you had the high-rise buildings from the east, and then if you couldn't see the wall, at least you knew there it is.
The West was full of glitz and consumer consumption and shops and neon and so on. The East German side was much more grey and so on. There wasn't any private enterprise, there wasn't any advertising.
It was a complete time warp. I mean, once you left Friedrichstraße station in East Berlin, you immediately felt as if you were being followed, which I think you probably were.
Very grey, reassuringly grey and depressingly grey. There was no paint on any houses. As a child, I didn't even know one could paint these houses.
One of the many short-term effects of the Berlin Wall was an economic divide between East and West Berlin. This was caused by the Soviet Union, who kept people in its satellite states in relative poverty. This short-term effect turned into a long-term effect because, even to this day, on average, West Berliners make more money per day on average than an East Berliner. Another short-term effect was thousands of families were divided when the Berlin Wall was built. Sometimes, some people never saw a family member again. Another short-term effect was smaller cities in East Berlin. This means that factories didn't have as many workers, so the economy grew slower. Another side effect that affected the economy was a shortage of young minds and workers that defected to West Berlin. Another short-term effect that impacted Berlin socially was a study made a couple years after the fall of the Berlin Wall said that 1 in 3 East Berliners considered West Berliners arrogant. A small percentage of West Berliners saw East Berliners as discontented. Another short-term effect of the Berlin Wall was that East Berliners were more open and welcoming to immigrants, while West Berliners didn't like immigrants. While there is little to no physical remnants of the Berlin Wall still standing, there is still a wall in the head between the mentality of some East and West Berliners. Another long-term effect of the Berlin Wall was political. East Berliners were less supportive of democracy and liked to vote for extremist political parties of both left and right. The Russian wars in Georgia and Ukraine were caused in part by security issues from the fall of the Berlin Wall. Another effect of the Berlin Wall was a higher unemployment rate in East Berlin due to East Berliners who were clueless about a competitive market economy. Another thing the wall falling down caused was the fall of the Soviet Union. The fall of the wall weakened the Soviet presence in Europe, causing a domino effect that made it lose all of its satellite states. In the chaos, a new leader took over and turned the Soviet Union into numerous smaller countries. One last long-term impact was that the Berlin Wall remained, and still remains, as one of the most infamous symbols of the Cold War. It also represented the struggle between the two dominant superpowers at the time. It represented the battle between communism and freedom. It not only divided the people of Berlin for over 3 decades, it also mentally divided them. It will forever remain a symbol of division and separation.